Watch Doors of Perception, now on Amazon Prime.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts, you have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Bradley Freedom. First, check out Doors of Perception, my new film, available now on Amazon Prime. It should be hitting the free streaming platforms by summer, Tubi, and others like that. We are booking guests for July. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome Bradley Freedom. He is a visionary entrepreneur and founder of multiple ventures. He has honed expertise in technology, operational strategy, and human-centered design. Bradley, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for coming on. Today, we're looking forward to sharing your insights and possible solutions for exiting the ever-expanding dystopian control system. In my perspective, we're really at a crossroads where we can either check out of the matrix or be further assimilated as batteries and energy for the parasitic ruling class. Like I was telling you before we got started, I think right now is a very important time to be presenting more of this information. Whenever I first started in 2012, most people weren't ready to hear this stuff, and it's getting to where there's more and more people waking up and looking for this information. So really looking forward to getting into this, but this is your first time on. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and let the audience know where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thefreedompeople.org is really the main website. You can go and find us. A little bit about me. I guess I can give you a brief background of kind of how I got here. I was in the military in the 90s, in the late 90s, mid-late, I guess, 97. I joined the Marines in 96 and left for boot camp, February 97. And by December of 97, I'd had a rude awakening. Everything that my world just started to explode, right? And it's kind of one of those things when, you think that the Marines, they're all this and all that, and you think you're doing all these things like, fighting for peace, which is like fucking for virginity. Doesn't make any sense. Like punching somebody in the face to teach them that punching people in the face is not cool, right? It's just, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Anyway, but man, I was born in Arizona on a ranch, football and military and guns and all that shit. That was family, motorcycles, music, dude. I grew up playing, you play guitar. I grew up, in a musical family, right? And it was just very in the matrix, in the control grid. You pay your taxes, you do all the things, and you join the Marine Corps, and you're going to go out there and you're going to really make a difference, and we're there to do things. But I had some sort of awakening, and I've gone over it many times to figure out was there one big thing, and I can't recall one big thing except for having this awakening. It was December of 97. And this is back when Saddam Hussein was kind of, and I put that in air quotes, but Saddam Hussein was the bad guy, right? In the whole play. And it was like all this stuff. And anytime around Christmas, and that was the cycle. It was like right around Christmas time, the holidays is when something would flare up. So of course it's December something, 97. And we're getting all ready to go out there and go to war and do all this stuff. And then the news, it dawned on me that the news was actually lying to us, which is funny now, right? CNN, and we know that now. But back then, man, like it was, my whole world kind of exploded, you know what I mean? And so, and I didn't know how much it affected me until much later, right? Hindsight. So anyway, then I just kind of went on this mission to find out the truth, like actual truth. And the advantageous part about having your entire world exploded is that you don't have anything to hold on to, which is actually a good thing, at least for me in the pursuit of truth. In that pursuit of truth, you have to be okay with whatever comes. Like you have to be okay with that. And just like you were saying, man, you lost all your friends 2012, same thing, man, same exact thing. In early 2000s, I was out there and we started the libertymovement.org, right? And I was trying to start my own like currencies. We were trying to figure out the ways to do all this. And I was explaining to friends and family all this. The big thing was that the Federal Reserve Bank was a privately owned institution, that it wasn't actually for the people, by the people at all. And that was enough to really just have people, like family members that never spoke to me again. They died, you know what I mean? Whatnot. I'm still here, I think, whatever reality we're in, but they passed on. And so we never even got to talk again, man. I never even got to speak with them again. And it was all because of something like now most people kind of know, you know what I mean? Now it's common information. And 2020, as I'm sure you experienced, was, you know, going through what you did in 2012 was 2020 was such a huge up for people like us.
2020 was my catalyst to turn this show into my career and start doing things that would check myself out of the matrix. That was the major turning point there. 2012, first awakening. 2020 was when I kicked it into gear.
Yeah, of course, right? And that was a lot of us. And that's what 2020 did. And my experience, I was just like, there's no fucking way. There's just no way that people are going to do what they say. And I could not believe that people were actually putting masks on and staying indoors. People actually did it. And I was like, fuck this. And that's why we started the Freedom People podcast. And we started really going hard, right? Because for me, that was like go time. You know, I had that decade in between, you know, the early 2000s and then, the 2 decades there. But there was like a decade where I kind of, 2008, 2009 really disheartened me. You know, that's the word. I was really just kind of demoralized once we bailed out the bank. And I say we, but you know, once the banks were bailed out and all that, I was just like, dude, we're never turning away. We're not coming back from this. You know, I was just like, and so I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go and enjoy life. I'm going to enjoy my life. I was a musician. I was in San Francisco, living in San Francisco. You know, software guy. I was just doing software and enjoying. And I wasn't going to all the parties before that because I was the guy screaming at people when they're trying to have a good time that they're slaves and everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. And all my friends were like, bro, you can't come to the parties anymore. And so I was like, all right, well, you know, again, fuck it. This is not working. Obviously not working. Nobody cared. And this is back when we were really pushing the, you know, end the Fed and there was another one. I mean, we were kind of into those and really thought we had some momentum going, but then anyway, and then I just kind of became disheartened and I just went to enjoying my life. 2019, I had a small residency. I was DJing a small residency in a bar in downtown Phoenix and had a much younger girlfriend. And I was just enjoying my life, man. I was really just trying to find that peace. Cause you know, man, you know what it's like when you have information and you're trying to impart this information and knowledge that you believe would help your friends and your family and society as a whole. And it just keeps getting spit back at you. And it's just, you know what I mean? You're just like, I just thought that I was in some weird twisted story timeline that that was my life. And so then I had to accept it. And so that's what I did for the next decade, 15 years, whatever, just enjoyed my life. I started software companies, built software, played music, all that good jazz. And then 2020 hit and it was go time. Like something switched in me that it was all of that information and knowledge. I felt that it was just time. Like we had to do something, because it doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much anything you have. If you don't have the freedom, if I don't have the freedom to even not mask myself, if I don't have that, if I don't have these then we have nothing, absolutely nothing. If I can't spend the money that I have the way I want it, absolutely nothing. So then that's when me and my wife now, but girlfriend at the time, and we got, you know, pedal to the metal, man. We're all in, and we went all in. Hell yeah, man. Like, here we are, like 5 years later, holy crap, the Freedom People's grown. So, I mean, just, it's crazy. And that's what you're probably experienced as well with your show, is that it's now We're not the crazy one. Well, maybe we're still a little crazy or whatever, but we're not as fucking crazy as they thought we were, right? Because I mean, you can imagine the stuff. I mean, it sounded so crazy until 2020. And then that just seemed to lift a lot of people out of their slumber.
100%. A lot of validation coming out in recent years. But as we see people awakening, as we see people coming online and becoming aware of the corrupt nature of our systems and the ruling class, there's still this massive portion of people that either refuses to see it or is too afraid of the consequences. And I remember whenever I quit my corporate day job to do this, to do a talk show as a career, it was the most terrifying thing. And the hardest thing to get over was this feeling that I was not being a good citizen by not being programmed and plugged into the system and being a good cattle, providing the food for the archons. There was some weird emotional part of me that really felt bad for checking out of the system, but it didn't take long to get over that. And the feeling of ultimate freedom and not having to worry about waking up every day and feeling like you're going to a death sentence just to get through that day. And that was every day of my life working this job. The transformation after I was able to take control of that in my career and be able to work for myself, it was like a completely different reality every day since then. And I'm so grateful and blessed and give thanks every minute of every day that I'm able to do this and talk about weird stuff every day and be able to make a living. But it was so strange to me that I had this sense of guilt for being successful when I first started. And I've heard other people say this, but I think that is also a part of our programming from the matrix system, from the time we're born. Our parents told us that we had to do certain things in order to be successful. Their parents told them that they had to do certain things, and anything outside of that is not acceptable to society, and you're going to get shunned or you're going to get looked at weird. And I think it's really the first step for each and every one of us to become truly sovereign, because I know for a fact that each and every one of us has that one skill that someone else needs. Every single person has at least one thing that they can do that somebody else can't, that they can bring to the table and offer the rest of society. And that's how it works. That's how community building works, and that's how we take back the system. Sorry for the rant, but I just had to add that there.
Oh, no, that's beautiful, man. Yeah. And I mean, yes, lots of good stuff there. And what you said was there's like, there seems to still be this group, the group, the other side, whatever, the ones who kind of refuse. It seems like they refuse to. And here's the thing: is that Operation Mockingbird in full swing, man? Is that the boob tube? Yeah. Right? Is it not just that, but it's the chemicals in our water, our air, our food, and then that somehow with those heavy metals like resonates with the frequency of the boob tube, right? Of the television programming, right? Like, is it that is, and it's not that they don't want to. It's like it's impossible. They are literally living in a dream state, kind of in a dream state, right? And I think about this often because I'm like, what is it? And that's why. So what we do at the Freedom People, we have the 5 Pillars of Freedom Transformation course, which, by the way, at the end of the show, I'm going to offer that to your audience of free of charge, because what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to shift. We want to be a part of the shift in humanity. That's because what I truly believe is that the only way that we're going to get out of this is to strengthen and empower the individual. It's the individual. We're not going to vote this in. You're not going to vote it out. You're not going to go to the top somehow and be like, hey, change it, please, Mr. Slave Master. Could you take my chains off? Yeah. It's not going to happen. Freedom isn't given, it's taken. That is taken. And so the way that we can get there is through what we believe is empowering the individual. And so we have the 5 Pillars of Freedom Transformation course, which is health, wealth, education, spirituality, and law. And our first pillar and what we do in the first week is health. and it's to walk people through to help them to decalcify and detoxify the body, which I believe is the pineal gland. Right now, if you look at the pineal gland, it emits DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and DMT. Again, this is a theory here, but that's what's having us to hallucinate our human experience. Yeah. Now, if that is dead, or if it's covered, calcified, if it's covered with heavy metals and all these toxins and the constant crap food you're putting in your body, again, I don't care if you're a carnivore or a vegan, does not matter to me. I just want people to eat clean. And that's where we're starting with the health. And that's where I think the health pillar and cleaning out and clearing out the mind, then maybe you can even hear the information that we're talking about, right? And that's why it's kind of the catalyst in the beginning of the course, is because then we go into education, spirituality, law, right? And how to actually stand on your own square and take back your power. That is the most important thing, man. And that's where when you said, yeah, I'm not sure that they're refusing to. It's just like they can't even see it, right? They're on the other side of the coin. They can't even see the other side. It's like we're trying to talk through steel gates to each other, but it's impossible. They have a completely different experience. At least that's just kind of a theory that I have going right now. Because I've been in this, for many years. I used to scream, like I was telling you, I used to scream at people, literally scream at people, being like, dude, you're not. And it did nothing. You know what I mean? Except probably it was the negative effect. Then people, I don't know how long I put people off, you know what I mean? For years, because I was trying to force them to hear something that they just could not hear. I always give the equivalent of, it's like walking into somebody's room at 3 a.m., throwing on the lights, taking a pot and pan and banging the crap out of it and telling them to wake up, and then trying to speak logic to them, right? It's like they're going to be like, fuck off, dude. I'm just trying to sleep. You know what I mean? And would you be willing to listen to anybody at that point? No. And so then, maybe that's what they call wisdom, but it just took me years to figure that out. And so now we just want to be a beacon of light and be there and meet people where they're at. And if you're starting your journey very beginning, awesome. Come learn with us. That's what it's all about, man.
Excellent. Let's explore those 5 pillars you just mentioned as it relates to the information that you're giving people. Starting with health. This, for me, was actually the first thing that I had to really change in order to, I'd say, make a true spiritual connection. I was eating horrible GMO foods. I was on a couple of prescriptions, not getting exercise, in bad relationships, not in a good state overall, really. But this was also the time around 2016, 2017, where I was really getting into the spiritual side of my show, and I was exploring meditation. And through a very powerful meditation experience, I became aware that my eating habits were severely affecting my everyday life and everything surrounding that. So that's the first thing I changed, started eating right, organic, and exercising. And this had such a massive effect on my life. It helped me sleep. It helped me be more clear. It helped me retain more information. And that led to a better spiritual connection and better meditation, and on and on and on. So such an important aspect to focus on. And it's really everything. This meat suit is how we experience this reality. And if we trash it, that's probably not going to be a good experience.
Totally, man. This is our vehicle. We need it. It's our spiritual housing, right? Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I full on believe that. There's much more than this third dimension reality, right? And you hit it all on the head, man. A lot of our really good friends, David Avocado Wolf, Dr. Group, Sayer G, these are all like close friends of ours, and they all came through the health space. Health space, look at that. The disinformation doesn't. All health trying to speak truth. And that's what and that's why we have it structured that way. Health. That's the first week we go through his course. And like you said, man, it's just changing the fuel that we're putting into our spiritual body, right? It's our connector. That's our senses. That's how we get our 5 senses. That's where our 6, 7, 8 senses, right? They're all there. They're here. It's just if we're blocked off from it, right? And can you imagine being back in that place where you were at, right? Go back to 2010, You know, where were you at when it's like 2010? Like, I mean, man, when I was a kid, tons of alcohol, drugs. I never even thought about like food. You know what I mean? Like as far as like any sort of, I mean, I would eat whatever I could eat, right? It didn't matter. But that is so very important, is to get that. And you just hit it right on the head, man, right? You're like, now I have a clear spiritual connection, and that's what happens. You clean out the body, and I'm convinced it's the pineal gland. And again, I have no proof or anything like that, except just experience and what I went through in my spiritual journey, because it was the same thing, right? I started really cleaning out everything, and then truth started to come through me, just like it's coming through you, right? It's not and that's what makes this so powerful, Chris, is that we've all come to this place on our own, right? It didn't come from outside source in, it came from inside out. And so once you come from the inside out, and then you meet other people like that have done the same thing, you don't even really have to discuss truth, because we know the truth. We understand the truth. We emit the truth. It comes through us, right? But when it's blocked off, right? And that's, again, TV, and again, I'm not against movies. I love movies and all that stuff. What I'm saying is that there's certain television programming out there that is in a certain frequency, and they even tell us that it's programming. I mean, they're telling you it's not even the program guide. I don't know if you remember when we were a kid, the TV guide and stuff like that, right? It was like, tell a vision programming. We're going to tell you a vision and program you. It's right there, right? So that's really the first one is the health, and we got to clean that out. Then the second one we go into is spirituality, because we really feel that spiritual connection, like we just said, that's what's going to help the truth come through you. And again, if we take it, what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to make us really hard to kill people, individuals. And what that means is that make you very hard to manipulation, right? Because that's what it is. It's that they're able to manipulate us through our emotions, right? And our emotion centers. But once you're really strong and connected to your spirit like that, you know, Chris, we're not easily as fooled, right? And I'm putting my faith in spirit. I'm putting my faith in God, in whatever you want to say, however word you want to put it. I put my faith there. And so I don't want to manipulate people into any sort of story, except for them to be strong and not listen to me. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want you to listen to us. We want to train people, because I believe that regardless, then that's going to be the ultimate outcome for all people. Because now we can't, because right now, how many people actually control the entire planet? I mean, I know we don't have an exact number, but you can get down to what, the family of 12, whatever you want. You can go down to how many people control all the masses through what? Through manipulation and fear. And so that's why the second pillar is spirituality. Then education. What does that mean? That means learning to educate yourself and learning to educate your own. Why? Because the powers that be, these systems that are put in place, trust me, it's not about education. It's about manipulation. It's about indoctrination, right? These are indoctrination centers. They're not schools. They're made to indoctrinate us into like what you were saying earlier about how, oh, I feel guilty. What is this guilt? That's what I believe that those schools are for. They're to inject all of that crap that make you feel. And even look at the spirituality stuff, man. I struggled with that for years. You can't be successful. You can't be spiritual and successful. If you have money, then you're not spiritual. And if you're spiritual, you don't have money.
Spirituality is immensely weaponized, along with education and the other pillars that we're going to be discussing. But if you look at organized religion, the Abrahamic religions, even New Age spirituality, there's been infiltration and weaponization of all of it, and it's difficult to sift through the nonsense. But like you said, finding the understanding of things as opposed to looking outside, looking elsewhere for the answers, trying to find a guru, looking towards outer space or external entities or intelligences to give us the information. It's all inside us. If we stop reaching for these outside sources, we could probably get a lot further in our spiritual understandings.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself, man. Amen. Right? There you go, man. That's like 100%. That's where when they say false prophets. That I believe anything outside of yourself is a false prophet. Why? Because anything outside of yourself has to be, that individual or group or whatever has to take a position. They have to take some sort of viewpoint that is through the lens of their experience, right? And most of us are looking at it through this 3D experience and not the one from the inside. So it's not that people are trying to intentionally deceive you or intentionally trying to be false prophets. Like, you know what I mean? We have people, I love listening to all kinds of gurus. At the same time, I do not put it on them for that information. I enjoy it because I get it's more like confirmation, right? And it's nice to connect and hear other people saying what I feel already inside, right? But now hasn't always been the case. Like I used to turn to them to help save me or to help me find something that I felt that I was lacking, but it turns around the other way, right? So I don't think that they're purposefully trying to do anything. Maybe some are, I don't know, but I think that, people are just trying to help make sense of it themselves. And when you start to, as I said, when I first had my awakenings and stuff, I was trying to preach the crap out of it to other people. And whether it was spiritual or in this law game or in the nature of our reality game, any of this stuff, right? And again, I wasn't being like disingenuous or trying to manipulate people in any way, but at the same time, you kind of are, because you're trying to explain to them your experience when they have to experience it themselves. So that's what's so important, man. You know what I mean? And that's it. It's cool to listen to all these gurus, but ultimately we need to come back to center.
Let's talk a little bit about law as it relates to becoming sovereign. This is a difficult one because our entire legal system is corrupt. What we've been relying on has a foundation of corruption, and it is built by these parasites that have been seeking power, and we've never revisited our legal system in a sense of human sovereignty. Talk a little bit about our law and how we can navigate this.
Yeah, man. Good call. So this is a cavern of rabbit holes. This is not like, one little thing, but it's you pull the thread, right? And the entire sweater comes undone. So there's the public and the private. Where are you located?
I'm in northern
Chris?
Colorado.
Oh, no way. I'm in southern Colorado. Okay. Yeah. I'm down, where Rye is?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know where Rye. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, so that you're in the United States. So we have a public and a private, and a lot of people don't really know what that means. They hear publicly traded companies and they hear all this stuff, but that's not really what it is. So what we have is the best way that I can explain it is the sheriff and the police. So you have police, right? And police are policy enforcers. It's in the words. And pay attention to words. Words mean things. But policy enforcers, they're there to enforce the policy of the corporations. What are the corporations? Well, the state of Colorado is different from Colorado State. Colorado State is the land. State of Colorado is actually a franchise corporation of the main corporation. Well, what's the main corporation? The main corporation is the United States Incorporated. Now, this is all verifiable. Have you ever heard of Dun & Bradstreet, Chris?
I have. I've heard of this, but tell me a little bit more.
So Dun & Bradstreet is the credit reporting agency for businesses, for corporations, right? So, for example, we have a software business, and if we want to publish an app on the Apple App Store, you have to have a Dun & Bradstreet number. It's like a social security number for your business, right? Now, you can go on there right now. You can even go into our Telegram group in the pinned messages. I pin them all the time. Is you can go and you can see what the United States Incorporated is and who the key principal is. It's currently Donald Trump, and they tell you what the revenue is and everything, right? You can also go and look up the state of Colorado, right? And I don't care about the politicians, so I don't know who the governor is right now of Colorado, but that is the key principal of that corporation. Okay, so now we know that there's corporations, then there's the land, and the land. So when you were first born, you were born onto the land. Regardless of where you were born onto the land. And it wasn't until they issued a birth certificate that is the bond, right? And so U.S. Treasury bonds, whatever, people, it's backed by what? Bonds are backed by the people, the living, breathing souls, okay? So they had to find a way to take that in. Now, back to the public and private. So the police are there to enforce the policies of the state of, where the sheriff is supposed to be there for the people. So that's why there are two separate things. And a lot of people don't know. You have the sheriff and the police. And there's like, well, why do we have both? Well, one's for the people, supposed to be. Not to say that they're not corrupt and bought off, because a lot of them are not constitutional sheriffs. They actually are doing the bidding of the corporations, where they shouldn't be. So that's the main difference, is you have the public and the private, and you can actually go back to being private. You can go and take back your birth certificate and put that into your own trust. Because what they do is they create a trust. They have to, and it's called your minor estate trust, or the CESQV trust. And so that's the only way that they can tax you, is because you have to identify as that entity, which can be taxed, but you can't tax a living, breathing soul. You can't. Actually, it's against God's law. It's against natural law. You can't do that, right? That's just, you cannot do that. And so they know that. And so what they do is they actually create a trust for you, and then they just leech off of that through the legal system, through everything for the rest of your life. It's actually a bonded and insured. You are a bonded and insured slave. Indentured servant, whatever you want to say. And that's why they always got us over slavery, about skin color and shit. They don't give one fuck, dude. It's 100%. They don't care about your skin color. They just want your soul. They want your energy source, because they can't create anything. Banks create nothing. Corporations, they're dead entities. They cannot produce anything. They require a living, breathing soul to produce. Right? And then that's how they can actually start to suck, the succubuses, the vamps, whatever, right? They're the ones, and that's how they kind of get us into that, and then we just become part of that. And then you identify as your all caps name. You identify as that name that's on your birth certificate for the rest of your life. But that's not who you are. You're not a birth certificate. You're not any of those things. You're actually a living, breathing man that you only have to answer to your creator. And again, freedom of religion, whatever you want to believe. I don't give a crap, but just know that you're not what they say you are. You are much, much, much bigger. We are the creators of our universe. We are the creators of this story, right? And they want to take that away and say, no, you're actually a weak little piece of crap. You could never be your own doctor. You could never educate your own kids, right? And that goes back to this, is little bits over time. We've just given our power away, right? Little bits over time, just giving it away, giving it away. Oh, I'm sick. That's not my fault. Whose fault is it? Well, it's the doctor's fault, right? Oh, well, my lawyer screwed me. It's his fault. No, it's actually no. And we could take all this power back, and that's the 5 pillars, man. And that's what it's all about. And especially the law. That's what really intrigued me for many years, is the separation of church and state. But what is the church? What is the state? Is a church a steeple with the thing and the people? Yeah, but it's also your body. You are the church. You are the church. That's the thing. And that's the separation of church and state. It's the separation of man and the state. It's not the actual church. It's the man, me, the individual, and the state, because they've come in and they've just kind of run amok. They really have. I mean, state of Colorado's, whatever, they're all in trouble. Even Texas, everything. Everybody says, no. Once you really know how it works, and that's why we're on a mission to free as many souls as possible. And you can do that through the Freedom People as a Trust process that we help actually take back that bond. So your birth certificate is a bond, and we take that and we put that in your own trust, and we take it away from the control of the corporations.
So many people look at the parasitic ruling class and the system and think that it's too big to fail. What can I do as an individual? I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to buck the system, or then I won't be provided for because I rely on the system. Do you think that we could have enough people awakening to where the system would fail, or is it more likely that we would see breakaway societies where the system is always going to be there and there'll always be probably large groups of people that want to be in the system and provided for by it? So we'll have that group of people in their smart cities, and then we'll have these other breakaway societies that don't want to be part of that want to be more sovereign. Is that the way you see things possibly unfolding?
Yeah, man, you know, that's a great question. And that's kind of something that I've in the past couple of years came to this realization where, you know, and it's more of a spiritual thing. Looking at it like the yin and yang, the yin and the yang. It's reliant. One side is reliant on the other. It's so interconnected. And I put it this way, there's always going to be white belts. I like to use the analogy of martial arts. And that's because there's always going to be new white belts, and white belts can then teach somebody who's never even heard of karate, right? You can have a yellow belt teaching white belts and also no one who's ever heard of karate, right? And so it's kind of like this spectrum of information and knowledge. And to answer the questions, I think that there will always be both, you know. But here's the thing: is that we think that we rely on the system, but the system relies on us, and that's been the trickery. That's been the sleight of hand movement that's happened. Is they make us think that we're dependent on them, when in reality they're dependent on us. They would have no system, no yachts. They would have no control at all, right? And so that's why, for me, my mission is to free the individual. Because once you free the individual, now we just got a bunch of individuals running around, I'd prefer that than having, because then we start to police our own. We start to take care of each other. We're not reliant on these centralized systems, right? The powers that be, whoever, and we just give that away. So I don't know, man. I'd like to hear what you think, man, because for me, it goes both ways. I would love to think of a utopian society, right, where it was just all of us were like that. But I'm not sure that that's how it's supposed to be. I think that there's always going to be people that want to be in that because that's the experience that they need to go through. I was part of that. My whole life growing up until the military, and something happened. I don't know, with the grace of God, whatever, something, I was woke up to something, right? And so, but had I not gone through all of that other dark side of the yin and the yang, right? And think of it third dimensional, right? And it's got the white dot and the black dot and the white, and those are like portals. And you can jump through those portals and spit out the other side. Either way, you can be in complete darkness and have something happen to you where you're immediately spit out into the light. And you hear it, gurus and stuff. Eckhart Tolle, if you know who he is, like his whole story about, he just, had that, he wanted to kill himself. And he's like, I can't deal with myself anymore. And then he just had that, wait, I can't deal with myself. There's two people in here. And that like completely transformed him immediately. That's not my experience. I like to take the long way around the whole ball. So I've had to trudge through all the darkness, right? That's just been my experience, and little tiny things over time. So yeah, man, I don't know. I think it could go either way, and I think maybe it is either way. I'd love to hear what you think. Yeah.
I agree. I think that we're always going to have those people that enjoy the Matrix steak too much and want to be provided for by it. But we also have a growing number of people like yourself, like myself, who want to check out, but aren't sure how to get it started. They look at, like I said, they look at the system and think it's too big to fail. What would you tell people that are first starting to become aware, come online, how they can begin to slowly check out? Because you have to take one step and begin something. And for most people, that's really the hardest part.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, so I think little wins are the big one. Especially when it comes to something like the IRS, right? Like people, and we have our cracking the code course that we just put out, within the past 60 days. And we've already gotten back lots and lots of money from people from the IRS. So that might be a good place to start, right? Like take the cracking code course. Like we've had people with, I don't want to give them, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars being returned to them in checks from the Treasury Department because of the IRS from this, because it's proper ways. They can't tax you as a living soul. They have to. So we're getting people that their past 3 years taxes back, right? So, and that little win, right? I mean, for some, 10 grand, whatever is a lot of money, and that can help them. We have people, it's beautiful. I can't even explain to you, Chris, it's beautiful. But to me, that might be a really good place to start, man, is go get your last 3 years of taxes back from these corrupt fucking institutions, dude. The ones who've been your entire, and it sucks it's only 3 years, but because it's been your entire life, they've been raping you. But just that, something like that, to know that it's possible, right? And it's not even if you even get anything back, it's that you're standing on your own square and you're going to them. Most people are deathly afraid of the IRS. Like death, they'll avoid, they get a letter, they avoid it. Never avoid. Call us, get a consultation with one of our guys. If you get any letter, if you have any problem with the IRS, call us. Seriously, do not ignore it. Don't ignore it, please. We have to respond because we have to be in honor. Even though they're not in honor, we have to be in honor. And so just taking that step and giving the middle finger and saying, it's standing up, man. That's the most empowering thing, right? It's like standing up to the bully at school. It's the same thing. You got to stand up. Once you stand up and you're like, no more, they back down, they fold, they crumble, because all they have is fear and intimidation, man.
Yeah, the whole system is built upon this Babylonian money magic illusion and the fear behind the non-existent consequences of the IRS and what they're capable of. It's a control system, but it's illusion. Tell us a little bit more about what you're helping people with along those lines.
Yeah. Well, like I said, number one is really about helping people immediately, right? It's especially right now, financial times can be tough. It's, so much uncertainty and fear around everything. A lot of people can use the extra cash, right? And that's really where we'd like to help people right now, in that side of things. And we can. And again, even just having someone on the other line that you can talk to, that's just like, hey, all good. We'll help you respond, right? We can help you respond to no matter what they're coming at you with. We can respond. That's the biggest one, is just responding and responding in the right way, because they have no authority over you unless you give it to them. It's tacit consent. Basically, by not saying no, you say yes. And that's what happens. So, for example, Wesley Snipes, right? Perfect example of the IRS going after someone who was very famous, and making sure that they know that the IRS is the big daddy still, right? They want to make sure. But do you know that his case was actually thrown out, right? Do you know that? Most people don't, right? Joseph Bannister was an IRS whistleblower. Is an IRS whistleblower. He went through all that, right? But and of course the IRS came down on him hard, made it very public. But then when he actually was acquitted of everything, crickets. You never hear any of that, right? And that's how they do it. Right? Was it who was the boxer? Joe Brown or Jim Brown? Oh, no, who was the boxer? The guy. They did the same thing. They did the same thing to him. They've been doing it throughout the ages. Is they'll pick someone. Now, here's the thing: where they made those mistakes was that they admitted to it. So most people are signing their confession forms saying yes, yes, and then they lie, or they do something, or they avoid, or they do something after they've already agreed. And so that's when people get in trouble. That's how you get in trouble. That's where they get you. But we help you to not, even if you have in the past, you can always come back and rescind all of that. You can say, I did not know. And here's now, by way of affidavit, right? A sworn testimony. Then that stops a lot of most everything dead in the tracks. Dead in the tracks.
Oh, that's extremely helpful, especially for the realizations that people are having about the entire system in general right now. I want to pivot a little bit to your spiritual understanding of the nature of reality, get a little deep here. There's an emerging understanding amongst many people in spiritual circles and communities, a very Gnostic belief system that we are trapped here, that we're constantly recycled, that there's no way out. Archonic entities feed on us, and that is the purpose of being here. And I think that's such a dark and depressing outlook, but it is becoming a more popular outlook, especially with the information that David Icke has been presenting. And I have many friends and colleagues that are looking at reality this way. And I do not see it that way. I see this as a very tough spiritual school that if we didn't have all that darkness and evil, we wouldn't learn shit. So it's necessary for us to experience this, but it is... when we're in it, it seems like a trap or a prison or something completely evil. But when I step back and look at a bigger picture, it seems like it's probably necessary for us to spiritually evolve. What do you think about that?
Man, I think, I have to agree with you on that one. Yeah, it's like we were just talking about the yin and the yang. It's essential. It would throw the balance off of the universe if it wasn't that way. Do you know? I mean, you wouldn't know dark without the light. You wouldn't know warmth without the cold, right? Like it's dependent on each other, just like the law game, just like the medical field, right? There's two sides to the coin. The key is the wu wei. The key is to stay in the center. The key is to flip that coin up and walk around the edge. That's the wu wei. Why? Because now I can see both sides of the fence, right? I'm not stuck on one or the other, right? There is no good. There is no bad. And this can get, if you want to get heady, but that's the thing is morality. Morality is actually kind of doesn't make a lot of sense at all. I mean, and only because it's changed throughout the ages, depending on the age and society, morality changes that way. So how can it be any sort of guidepost? I don't think it is. I think being able to sit in the middle and to observe both sides, that's where, like, I've had some bar attorneys, right? A friend of mine who I had this conversation with, he woke up again to all of the things that we're talking about now, because of the 2020, the jab. He had a really good friend, lifelong friend that was a doctor, and kind of manipulated him to get the jab. And that he broke his friendship off, all that stuff, right? Had a really hard time with that. And then I spoke to him probably a year later, and I drew the parallel between the medical system and the legal system, because he's a bar attorney, right? I mean, multi-generational bar, British Accreditation Registry, a bar attorney, right? One of those guys. And I drew that parallel. I said, well, you understand how doctors, they only are taught one side of the coin, right? Like they go to school and the curriculum is written by the powers that be, by the pharmaceutical companies that are teaching these guys. So they have zero nutrition, but he was, deep into the nutrition side and healing himself part of things. So once I drew that parallel, he was like, wow, okay. And so again, if we can stand those coins up and look at the world like that, is that it's essential. Both is essential. We don't have to be really pulled into believing that we're awesome or that we suck. We can just be okay with being content in the center. Now, does that mean that we have to, that we're living in? No, for me, it's your imagination, right? If you've ever heard of Neville Goddard, I speak about him a lot, but Neville Goddard, Awakened Imagination, a book right here. So like it's our imagination. Create the reality that you want to live through. It's our imagination. Everything is created. That chair you're sitting on right there, it didn't just appear in the world, right? It was a thought before it became the guitar behind you, like all the artwork, right? Where'd that come from? Somebody's imagination. It did not come from just, I don't know what. Where did it come from? It just appeared? No, absolutely not. And that's how we can rest assured that we know it's our imagination that is the most powerful thing in this reality. And that's how we should be living, is creating and being what we want to be. That's what we should be doing. And I love David Icke. We've had him on our podcast, right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
I've had him on a few times.
Yeah, he's been like from way back in the day, man, like one of the guys that I would listen to because it made me feel better because I didn't feel so crazy because nobody else was talking when David Icke was talking, you know? And so yeah, and I get, you can look at it however you want. And like, but look at your positive outlook, right? I have the same way. I think of it much more like you. But again, everybody has the right. Everybody has that. You could think however you want. And not only that, we need them to think that way. We rely on the other side to pull just as hard as we're pulling this way. As hard as I'm pulling and trying to go to freedom and the light, they're pulling, trying to take us to control and fear. Love and freedom or fear and control. That's the two things, right? It's like a train pulling at itself on both sides, but it has to. Your guitar. Could you play that guitar if there was no tension on the string?
No way.
Absolutely not. And we are closer to frequency and vibration than we are anything else. Look under a microscope, right? And that's why we're talking about the TV and the boob tube, right? And the frequency. That's how they're manipulating us, is through frequency and vibration. It's nothing else, because there is nothing
Something else you said is really important, that we create our reality through our imagination, through our thoughts, through our energy, and that also correlates with those that believe that these parasites at the top don't have the same creative ability, don't have the manifestation capabilities because they're not as connected to source, but we are, so they have to use us to create their reality for them. Hence, they start false flag operations, propaganda, psychological operations, high-impact events to steer society in the direction that they desire, because they just don't have that normal creative spark that everyone else does that is connected to source. And because we have that, we're extremely powerful. We just need to realize it and start utilizing that ability.
Yeah, man. Well said. Well said. But here's the thing. We're using it all the time. Whether we're consciously using it or not, that's completely different, right? And that's where people are like, oh, I want to manifest. You are. Every moment of every day. You are. You can't not. It's like, it's you unless you just stopped. If you go unconscious, that's why, like, I don't know, my buddy just went and had surgery a couple weeks ago and they put him under, right? And I've only been under once, and it was for a stupid little pinky thing, but I had to get put under, and that's a trip, dude. Like, completely like black, and then you just kind of wake, like, I mean, that kind of thing. So then you're in probably a non-manifesting state. But other than that, even your dreams, you're manifesting. And that's where we go, oh, I want to learn how to, well, you are. It's just, let's start being intentional about it. Let's start using our imagination for good. Let's start making that inner talk. It's our inner talk. It's our inner dialogue that really guides most of what happens to us. We think it's all outside sources, but it's not. It's inside out. Everything is inside out. Love, joy, freedom, everything's inside out. And that's why it has to be taken. It's not given.
Now we got a few minutes left. Tell us a little bit more about what you're helping people with and your thoughts on where we're at collectively. Like I said in my introduction, I believe we are at a crossroads. There's an amazing amount of people waking up and becoming aware of the nature of reality and asking the right questions, but I still see many people that may never even have the desire to do so. But maybe talk a little bit more about what you do and how folks can navigate their way through this reality.
Yeah, man, happy to. So we hit on almost all of the pillars there, right? The last one's probably wealth, and that's actually the last week in the pillars, and that's because that is the natural outcome. And when people hear wealth, they immediately think financial wealth, that's part of it, right? Because money is energy. That's it. You exchange your energy for money. Energy exchange. That's all money is. Money is a medium. It's like oxygen. Is oxygen good or bad? Well, we'd say it's good because we need it to live, right? So that's the same thing with money. We kind of need it to live, but we're not concerned about our next breath unless, of course, somebody's got you by the throat. But I mean, most of the time we're just breathing, and we never think that there's not going to be enough air, right? And money can be the same way. And that's the wealth part. And so that's really just kind of to round out the 5 pillars of freedom, transformation. That's really what it's about. Now, for your viewers and yourself, you can join our course for free. You can go to freedompillars.com. That's freedompillars.com. And then put in the coupon code FKN free. And that's, Freedom Knowledge News. So F is in Frank, K is in Kilo, N is in Nancy, and then FREE, FKN FREE. And that's your coupon code for all of your listeners to get the course free of charge. Again, it's a $333 course, but we're giving it away free to people because we got to turn the ship around, man. Chris, we got to turn the ship around. And here's the thing. It's way more turned than it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I mean, as you know, right? Like we said in the beginning, 2020 was a huge shift. And so we're just trying to push as much as we can. And that's what we're doing.
Right on. Well, I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have to do this again in the future. I will have all your links and that coupon code in the description so everyone can easily access that. And until next time, everyone, have a wonderful evening. We will be talking again tomorrow, and we'll see y'all then.
I'm part of a member of the Ute tribe, and I am a member of the Uinta band. And I live with all this supernatural stuff. I don't like to talk about skinwalkers too much. What are we talking about in the first place? It's shape-shifting. It does exist in other places in different variations, different regions, and over in the Great Lakes region they have people, they would say they would transform into bears, into wolves, into different things. Because back then we had no fast transportation, we didn't have any mode of communication that was very fast. So a lot of that came from there. They would be messengers, and they can run. They were pretty much indestructible. The way I was told is that there was a spirit or this power or the center of this. This power is hungry. If you want to equate it with something, it would be the devil. This power corrupts, but there's a price to pay for that. Now that we're seeing all these activity, you kind of grow up with that around here. You see a lot of strange things. It's just always been a contentious place. My elders, the old men would tell us, they said, it's because our people are living on this power points, on these, what they call vortexes, or what our people would say they're power points. If you see the swirls out in the petroglyphs, you'll see one going the one way and the other one going counterclockwise. They had a purpose and a reason why. And you'll see them to this day in other tribes. They'll use those in their ceremonies. And that's what they're for, the portals or doors. Because when we're taught, like in a Lakota way and a Dakota way, Wanagis and spirits, they know what doors are. They know what windows are. There's always an element of that, there was a portal that exists, or portals. We would say these are the star people. These things are coming from obviously somewhere, it's somewhere far, but it's so close at the same time. These things, we never looked at them as being foreign, like alien, how we call them alien. See, we wouldn't call them alien. We call them star people. There's also the bad entities, and there's these bad things that occur. Natives throughout time, we adjusted to this land, we adjusted to environment, just as we would hunt and chase the buffalo and do all these things that we knew about the flow of this and that. We were also attentive to those things. Like in the Lakota tradition, they call them the Iktomi stories, or the trickster. Ghosts, UFOs, and all types of things coming from somewhere.
He was a gentleman I knew well. He was out one day in this field near this irrigation ditch, and he had a UFO, for lack of a better word, swoop down and get so close to him that he had to jump into the water. And he said it was like he could feel the heat coming off of it. It was the brightest light he'd ever seen, and he jumped into the ditch, like to fully submerge himself in the water to not be burned. And when he came out, he had basically a full sunburn, and it took weeks to recover from, and he ended up dying of cancer. It happens. A lot of interesting stuff.